How's it going everyone, it's me Vivi and welcome to another Sly Cooper related video. So, the Fiendish Five versus the Klaww gang, let's go. Now the major difference between these two groups is that the Fiendish Five primarily worked together even if it didn't look that obvious in Sly 1. As for the Klaww gang, in a way, they did all work together, but at the end of the day, they all had their own personal gains. They all went their separate ways as explained by Arpeggio. Comparing the size of the two, the Klaww gang is about the size of the Fiendish Five, 6 members in the Klaww gang. Actually, if you want to be a bit more technical, we faced 5 members in Sly 2, so they're pretty much the same size, right? Arpeggio, well, you know what happened to him. Arpeggio's ultimate plan was to get all of the parts to himself, only later to realize that Neela wanted the parts for herself. She was the backstabber. Now let's go over the characters individually. Let's start with the Fiendish Five. Sir Raleigh, he was the chief machinist. If any of the members needed tech, machines and stuff like that, he was there. As for Mugshot, he was the enforcer. He drove out the residents of Mesa City and created his own casino. As for Miss Ruby, she was the voodoo master, chief mystic, whatever you want to call it. She broke the laws of nature. As for the Panda King, he was a kung fu master, maybe, but he was the demolition expert, who also became the Cooper gang's future ally in Sly 3 when we had to infiltrate the Cooper vault. As for Clockwerk, he's the leader, who recruited each member maybe against their own will, but I'm pretty sure money was involved. Next, the Klaww gang, Dimitri, he owned a nightclub. Now before that he was into art forgery, but let's not get into that. Dimitri was the one who sold the spice. Rajan, he was the spice producer. Contessa, she was the secret member. Well, one of the secret members. She also had this rehabilitation center. Jean Bassan, he was all about spice transport. Neela, she was Arpeggio's secret protege. She was, in one word, a manipulator. Arpeggio, he was the leader. Now some might argue, was he really the leader originally? Why am I saying this? Because Arpeggio was hired as the chief inventor and then became the leader. So originally there was the Klaww gang, but there wasn't Arpeggio before. I don't know if you guys have heard of this user called Teen Bat on Wiki. He brought this up. It was very interesting. He was hired as chief inventor, right? That gang already existed, but who was the leader before? I'll let you guys think about this one. Now, fun fact, if you take the time and compare these members together individually, they have similarities. Arpeggio and Clockwerk were both birds, interested with immortality. Miss Ruby and the Contessa, black magic, simple. Jean Bassan and Mugshot, they were pretty much the muscle, we can say, with limited intelligence. As for Rajan and the Panda King, they pretty much grew up poor and were rejected in their lives. Dimitri and Raleigh, well, piracy. Well, Dimitri, technically his grandfather was into piracy. We learned that in Sly 3. So what now? Well, the Klaww gang was originally formed while the sole purpose of that gang was to start this spice business. And this happened way before getting the Clockwerk parts. So this type of business already was happening before. Once the Clockwerk parts came into play, each member ran away with 1 or 2 even, like Jean Bassan for example. Not only did this speed up the spice process, profit and all that, each member took advantage of the pieces for their own personal gains. 2 examples I could give you. Dimitri. Sure, he was giving spice to people, but he used the Clockwerk tail feathers to forge money. Contessa, she used Clockwerk's eyes to further enhance her hypnotizing abilities, and by doing so, she hoped that people who were hypnotized would reveal their loot. In short, each member had their own earnings. But ultimately, Arpeggio had one plan. He waited for the parts to eventually gather in one place, so that he would enter Clockwerk's frame. As for the Fiendish Five, each member barged into Sly's home and took out a page of the Thievius Raccoonus. During that instant, the gang was together. As for the Klaww gang, the museum heist was when the gang was together, well, apart from episode 2. So in a way we can say that the Fiendish Five worked together when they killed Sly's parents. As for the Klaww gang, they worked together when stealing the pieces from the museum. The Fiendish Five, seeing as how they all mentioned Sly's next target, they all had a connection, as if they were always communicating in some sort of way. However, we're not sure what Clockwerk would have done if any of the members of that gang refused to follow his orders. Clockwerk looks like the type of villain who would kill anyone who refused to follow follow his orders. And looking at these two gangs, they all moved to a different location. In Sly 1, Clockwerk didn't interact with any of the members during the whole game, which is something I wanted to see, but it is what it is. As for Arpeggio, in episode 2, Sly 2, all of the members were close together. As for whether or not they interacted, well, we can argue. I would say yes, why not? For example, Rajan and Jean Besson while Sly and Neela were dancing. So comparing the Klaww gang to the Fiendish, the Klaww gang had a lot more interaction. If you want to put this in a simpler way, the Klaww gang had a master plan. The Fiendish Five didn't. Master plan was spice production, the spice business. As for the Fiendish Five, they all barged into Sly's home and they ran away with pages, like they were ordered to do it. As for the other gang, they just came up with this business deal, and if one of them failed or refused, well, I don't think Arpeggio would have sent someone to kill them off, because his main intention was to get the Clockwerk pieces put together. Now yes, it did seem like Neela was keeping an eye on the gang, but ultimately she was keeping an eye on Sly Cooper. She wanted to make sure that they would get the parts, so that at the end, they would all end up together in Arpeggio's blimp. Another way of explaining this is Jean Besson sold the remaining pieces to Arpeggio. Neela and Arpeggio made sure they got all of the pieces put together. Anyhow, I'm going to leave it at that, so guys, tell me in the comment section below, how would you compare the Klaww gang to the Fiendish Five? Leave all of your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always, I've been VTNVIVI, and thank you so much for watching.